Well, we'll go through these one at a time, not necessarily in sequence, but this is a script that, this is Carrie's script from Jedi, but you'll notice that the name of the script is Revenge of the Jedi, which was the title before somebody asked George, would a Jedi take revenge on anybody? And then George was like, oh, dang, you're right. Jedi Knights would not take revenge on anybody. So the title was changed, but this script is not. And what's also cool, stay on your close-up, is all of these are Carrie's scripts, and they're all signed to Carrie, from George. So back to your close-up. And I think this is funny because for Carrie, easy to say lines. And then George. That's important because Carrie had been complaining, especially after the first Star Wars, that this was unrealistic dialogue. For an example, I'd recognize your foul stench anywhere. Who really talks to anybody like that? And like all of the dialogue, if you listen to Carrie, at times it's not that easy to roll that dialogue off your tongue in a natural fashion and make it seem like it's part of your natural way of communicating. So Carrie used to go to George and lobby for let her write her own dialogue. By this point, Carrie was, already an author, and so she, had some input even before. But, you could see how early on, though, who were we? We were teenagers. Carrie's 19 years old. When I visited her in London, and we were looking at the sets and everything. Honestly, it didn't look like anything. I had seen the sets of 2001 Space Odyssey and some other stuff, and this was nowhere near at that level, so nobody ever thought it was really going to amount to much. And as now Carrie, I had come after Carrie had already had an affair with Harrison, which was never supposed to be spoken. My mother swore me and Carrie both to secrecy, and Carrie listened to her right up until the end there. And when I gave her her diary, her real diary, which became the Princess Diarist book, she remembered, and there was a lot of detail in there that she didn't recall. And then it made her think, oh yeah, the world's ready to hear this story. Now nobody's going to care. Wrong.
I was shocked. I really was. I was like, I have never heard anything about this.
But you remember my mother, right? My mother saying,
yes.
Now, dear, I really wish you wouldn't do this. And Carrie's like, oh, Mom, you're so Victorian. Nobody cares that Now, dear, you see, he was married at the time. No, that's tough for you to understand. she really begged her not to go into that. And of course, she did. And there was some backlash. Not for not everybody, but there was a little kickback on that one.
Yes.
Not as easy as you'd think. Okay, so I'll give you another. So that's script number one. Script number two.
I love also, in the scripts you're going to see different color pages show inside.
Yeah, well, this is a good example. So by this point, now if you look at the first script of Star Wars, there are no changes because there was no budget to be making a lot of changes. But by the time we get to Empire, there's every color in the rainbow in here. These are all changes that started happening.
Well, so the reason that they're different colors is because when they come down to the set and they say, we're making changes, sometimes it's for story, sometimes it's for time, like it's running too long, too short, and so they do rewrites and they come to the set and they hand them to you, and you have to learn them pretty quickly. And so anytime they handed you color pages at the beginning of the day in the morning, that meant that you had line changes. And now those pages go in your script. So you can see how many colors are in there and how many times they changed the dialogue.
So you see, George said, to Carrie, may the force be with you. By the way, my mother put him up to this. Carrie would never have asked George, to sign anything because, by that point, so it was my mother that was saving things. They also have some cool photographs that they put into these scripts to go with some of the stuff. Like there's, some of the pages have photographs that relate, to the scene.
Well, someone is asking, Nicole Talencio is asking if they did they let the actors ad-lib?
No.
Usually not. Movies don't like that. Because
well, if you're Marlon Brando in Apocalypse Now and Francis Ford Coppola turns you loose in a cave,
done.
You can go on and on and on and on, and but to control the set, a director really
yeah.
would prefer.
And editing.
But you want, and continuity, a lot of
Yeah.
reasons, but you really would prefer that not happen. Now, in Carrie's case, if she had an idea of something to say, she would tell George, and you could do something about it at that point. I mean, not having, let's just say, control of the script is a serious problem, especially in a movie that's going to have a lot of moving parts, like
Yeah.
special effects and other things. You have no idea when you would read this what it was going to turn into, especially the first Star Wars. I mean, really nobody had a clue. They'd never seen anything quite like this. So when George is going on about this, people are starting to think he's lost his mind. Obviously, they believed him enough to put up a certain amount of money, but they only put up that money because of American Graffiti and also because Francis Ford Coppola came along and guaranteed the completion of the project. They were in real trouble. And no one believed that George was had a brilliant idea here. This was going to be a huge success. No one saw that coming.
Interesting. Someone's saying here that she asked Harrison if she could write about it beforehand.
Yeah, that's what they say, all right.
But we don't know that.
I know all about that.
Yeah, but anyway, Elizabeth, that was you.
So this is, by the way, that's a great example of how the world turns today.
Nancy
You see what I mean?
wants to know if the cast all received bound books of the scripts, or was that something that Carrie did?
No, this is my mother at work here.
Yeah.
I have another one of Carrie's scripts. It's all torn up and, just been thrown around. And no, nobody really. My mother.
Your mom had every one of her scripts like this bound.
From the beginning.
Yeah, we
there
have
was a
all those.
beautiful company that used to bind scripts in
I
Hollywood.
used to get mine
This
done
is
there.
not as good as the original ones that my mother used to have done, but it's well done. But no, this was my mother's thinking that this would be good for Carrie, and she had several scripts of Carrie's bound, if you could find them, because Carrie just tossed them in the trash.
Yeah.
I mean, my mother claims that this was all rescued from the trash.
Wow.
So Carrie would be done with the script, and the movie's over. We don't need this anymore, right? I mean, in fact, we went in and did some dialogue replacement. There's really no reason to save this script. They'll give me another copy if I go down to Todd A.O. to do the dialogue. I don't even need this script, not for a minute. We finished. It's done.
I would be surprised if that's true, though, because they used to have, the
What's
scripts
true?
were, that they could just, anyone could think that they could just get another script because they were so protective.
No, later they were.
Of the scripts.
These, in fact, are bait stamped and serial numbered.
Yeah.
That later got in. See, that didn't matter until you had a franchise. See, every page has got a serial number on it. They don't want this. Can you see the red? Yeah, focus up on that. You see, every page has got a mark like that on it.
I wonder what kind of tricks that they use to keep things secret. Like if the cast talked, then
I can tell you what secrets they use.
Okay.
It's called a lawyer. The lawyer calls up and threatens, and Carrie won't pay any attention. They call me, and they say, "Can't you control her?"
No one could control
And I was
her.
like, "You know that you can't control her. You didn't hire her because she's so under control. You want some subservient little girl that sucks up to everything you say, or do you want Princess Leia? Princess Leia is going to tell you to take a hike. I'm going to say whatever I want."
But no, she was very, very careful, and at the
Not
the
really.
end, oh, she was
She
when
used
they
to
were
laugh
doing
all the
the
time.
Force Awakens.
She would laugh.
got
all
in
the, I'm not,
trouble.
she got in trouble all the time. That's my point.
But she then said, "I really have to be good because they really want this."
The lawyers
to be.
called me and other lawyers, and they say, "Isn't there anything we can do?" They call my mother, and I would go to Carrie, and I'd say, they're calling everybody, to have you stop talking about this stuff, and it just wasn't her makeup.
Yeah.
She never could keep secrets and stuff like that. So why would you want her to do it? It's also part of her magic. I mean, you're messing with somebody's magic when you start to try to alter their personality like that. Don't you agree?
Yes, absolutely.